Hi, it's Javi Rappaport here with Torah Wisdom to Go, the wisdom of Torah to hear and pass on. So this week's Torah portion really introduces a tremendous question. Parshat Vayeira, we read about the ultimate sacrifice, Avram taking Yitzchak to bind him on the Akedah. Can we possibly relate to that level of self-sacrifice? I mean, how does this story really relate to us? That so much so that we say it in our prayers every single day. And we always, on the high holidays, we read about the Akedah. What can we derive from this story? It seems so out of reach. Well, obviously, we can. Let's take it apart a little bit. Why does Hashem look at this test, the 10th test of Abraham, as the ultimate test and the barometer to prove that the other 9 were real? Avram went through a tremendous test, fighting against a whole world, arguing monotheism, being forced and thrown into a fiery furnace, but he didn't hesitate. Isn't that tremendous sacrifice? Isn't that enough? Why would this be a game changer? The 10th test to prove that Avraham's sacrifice was really altruistic, all about God and nothing about himself. You see, we might say that with the earlier test, so many people were watching, and Avram talked about God and the oneness of God all this time. He obviously needed to die for it because that was his message all through his life. So, is that purely selfless? Still noble, but maybe not. But when it came to the Akedah, nobody was around. Nobody knew anything. Hashem had promised Avraham, you will have a son, your children will be as many as the stars in the sky, I will give them the land of Israel. Hey, Hashem, God, where's the promise? But he didn't ask. And even more so, and perhaps this is the greatest element of the elevated state of this test. Avraham, he was the ultimate of kindness. When he was around, the attribute of chesed, of kindness, said, hey, I've got nothing to do. Avram's taken charge, he's taken over. His kindness is so far-reaching. It's unbelievable. And we know from the stories that the Torah recounts, the way he ran out to greet his guests, the tree he planted. Our sages tell us he even planted an orchard so that he can provide food and a court of law in case his visitors might have some dispute they need to work through. And what about when he pleaded with God to save Lot, his nephew? Was Lot deserving? He was living in Sodom, the heart of wickedness, which we see again in this week's Parsha. Nevertheless, Avraham went all out for chesed. And over here, he had to go to the opposite end of everything he stood for. He had to call forth a strength, a gevura that was not his nature at all. He put himself and his kindness and mercy aside for the will of Hashem. And you know what else? His whole life, he was preaching monotheism and frowning against the awful, despicable custom of sacrificing children to the pagan gods. And what was he about to do? Nevertheless, he put it all aside for Hashem's will. And because he's our Father, you and I have that DNA. So what are we going to do with it? Okay, Hashem is not appearing to us and asking us to sacrifice, God forbid, on that magnitude. But you know what? Every time that we put aside a will, a strong desire, something I really want, and we replace it with what God really wants, that is a level, a big level of sacrifice. And Hashem sees it that way. So, can we connect to Abraham? Absolutely. Can we sacrifice like him? You know, in many ways, it's harder to live sanctifying God's name than, God forbid, to die sanctifying God's name. So let's live a life that we can say, I sanctify the name of God, the name of Hashem. So our takeaway, as always, because the Torah speaks personally to me and to you. So the next time there is a decision to make and it's something you want, desire, feel, but you know there's a higher truth, go for it.